Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Marlene. For today's video, I am going to be explaining about the astral. So what is the astral, how it is divided, and this video is to maybe answer some of those questions you guys might have about what happens in the afterlife. Like, where does our soul go after we die? And maybe about dreams, like why do I dream about sometimes like good dreams, like, or really horrific dreams, also about why it's important, to understand about the astral, how it works. And also this video, I'm not going to go too much into astral projection. I'll probably make a separate video because it's a lot. It's like the same thing, but it's at the same time like different. But yeah, the astral is that realm, that etheric realm where our mind or consciousness like projects, right? Whether we excuse me, whether we are aware of it or not. So we sometimes might be able to recall our dreams or not, but we are always connected to the astral. So the astral is kind of like a mirror of what we do on our daily lives. So if you spend most of your time, I guess, not doing much, the astral is also not gonna be that vivid, but also you can get into karma because of that. Like, we're always making karma as well, right? So like every action has a translation of like an energetic translation in the astral, and that's what I'm gonna be like explaining about how that difference in energy is divided and why we are stuck in either like lower realms or the higher realms, right? So first of all, the astral is just another plane of consciousness. Depending on the schools, the teachings or like texts, so like cosmovisions, you could say, like Buddhism, Hinduism, or the occultists, they have different terminology for each of these planes of existence. So I picked the most popular ones because they're more easily to understand, and at least for me, they're easy to digest because, again, like some of these terms come from Hinduism. Like, I'm not I don't like speak Hinduism, so I'm just like going by the popular ones, right? What we know, you guys. So yeah, the higher realms, or what is considered like the highest, most high plane of existence, is called the Godhead, right? And then from there we have the mental plane, the astral plane, the etheric plane, and the physical. The physical is like here the 3D world, Earth. And from there we have the different like cosmovisions of this different planes. So in Kabbalistic, they're called the Neshama, the Ruach, and the Nefesh. And then they only have the body as the physical. And then from, I think it was called the occultist, like they usually call it like your higher self, the highest plane of existence. Yeah, or the mental body, the astral, the gross body, which is another division of the astral, and then the body. So they usually call the most physical one the body. Then from there we have like the emotional or intuitive lower self, right? And then from there we have the higher realm. So in a lot of texts, they divide it by the astral and mental are composed of your soul, and the Godhead or the highest realm is your spirit. So the spirit will encompass a lot of souls. So each of these planes of existence obviously has its own domain over things. So like the archangels will be located in like higher realms, and like just you could say like human souls are in a different plane of existence. And then obviously the physical, we are here, we have our own plane of existence, right? And when it comes to the astral, it's again, it's like a reflection of here on earth. So there's obviously multiple worlds or divisions that one can talk about, right? Like there's so many countries, languages, so there's so much in there, like experiences and just different realms, like it's infinite possibilities. But I like that a lot of these cosmovisions do have certain divisions for that plane of existence of the astral. Okay, so I'm gonna go over the three main divisions, which is the higher astral, the middle astral, and the lower astral. Okay, now how is the astral divided, right? So again, depending on what cosmovision you're looking at, Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, you will get different divisions. So some of them divided in like 7, 14, or like Christianity just to like heaven, hell, so I like Rudolf Steiner division about like Arupa Devachan being the higher astral, Rupa Devakan as the middle astral, or the Kamaloka as the lower astral. And just want to make a side note here, in Spanish, Kamaloka means crazy bed. So every time I would read that word, I just couldn't stop but laughing, right? But it kind of makes sense in Spanish too, because the lower realms has to do with like earthly desires. So Kamaloka is kind of like crazy bed, like a lot of things happen in the bed. Like I put here like the 7 sins. So the 7 sins are those of pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth. Okay, so these are your 7 sins. So these are your what makes you vibrate at a lower state, right? So that's when we have certain dreams sometimes where we have this encounter with a being of the lower astral, and you feel like they're draining you. Is because a lot of times we might be vibrating at that energy, and we in a way are allowing them unconsciously for them to do that, right? It takes a lot of willpower to be moving on through the different astral planes, but I'm gonna explain like how to do it kind of. But pretty much the lower realm is known also as the Luciferian domain, because that's where most of all of the false light beings are, right? These are like your demons, your energetic vampires. Those are like siphoning for energy because they don't have their own energy. It's kind of like, I don't want to say like Hollywood stars, but a lot of them are just, like they're called stars as if they are supposed to give us the example of something, but in reality they don't have their own like inner light. It's like the astral won't lie to you. The astral is that truth energy that reflects back to you your actual energetic state, right? So you cannot lie to energy, no matter if you say you're doing this or that. If your energy doesn't match that on the like the scale of frequency, then you're just gonna be stuck here in the false light, right? And again, this is the domain of the Kamaloka, so it means you're trapped in like the desires of the flesh. You're still like how they call it, the mark of the beast on your lower 3 chakras, right? Where you don't want to like leave that earthly realm behind. You don't want to go to the higher chakras. Therefore your passions, your desires are still holding on to you. You're still holding on to that shadow instead of going for the light. So that's why if somebody's like stuck here in the darkness, they can't really be a teacher or tell you how to do something because they haven't done it themselves, right? And I'm gonna go over it right now as I'll tell you about the different the astral planes. So I'm sorry, divisions. So when it comes to the middle astral, this is where most people souls will be trapped, right? Where once they die and they go on to you can say like the next life, it's they have to go through a period of the middle astral, of the Kamaloka, and then they'll pass on to the middle astral. So most people are trapped here again because, you know, we can be still doing something that it comes from our ego, that we're still holding on to that past life desire for something. It can be good or bad. Remember, desiring is like, it's kind of like you have to have some sort of self-control. Like the higher realms, the archangels, the angels, right? They were able to crystallize their virtues. So this is like the in between, right? So the next realm, the higher astral, is those of the angel domains, because they're able to crystallize the virtues, right? So this is considered advanced souls or teachers. So those that were able to actually go through what they call the hero's journey, and actually are now able to move around freely in the astral, and now they can actually come down and show you, you know, as a teacher would, and help the souls that are like here, right? And obviously most souls that are on the middle astral do want the help, you know, so they have their own time where, I'm talking about like the afterlife, once they pass away, they get their life reviewed and everything, what they did right or wrong, how they made others feel, everything gets reviewed. And this is where the archangels are able to like act as observers and actually help those souls, you know, like, okay, maybe in your next life, this is your set of tools that you're gonna have, this way you can do to overcome that, right? And everybody has a different set of tools that they can use. So other souls that are like in the lower realms are like, no, like they don't even want the help, they just want to continue being part of that lower realm. Okay, and so we see that the hero's journey here and the different levels of the astral, we know from like the tarot, right? It's the hero's journey is that of you are trying to overcome something, trying to figure out something, you know. So in this case, in order to leave the lower astral behind, your hero's journey is your willingness to be able to leave the shadow behind, right? To kill your ego's desires. So that's the whole adventure of trying you to embody the virtues. That's why it's so important to talk about embodiment, becoming that virtue, instead of just like saying you're gonna do it and not really doing it, because again, energy doesn't lie. The astral acts as a mirror of all those desires. So it's also it holds like your karma, which I'm gonna go over it just briefly. But those that are unable to pass like the different tests when you are in the hero's journey, they are called Luciferians, because again, it's the false light, right? Like you didn't pass that test. So when you don't pass the test, in a way, it's like you have to go back again from the beginning and, you know, start all over again on the hero's journey. And obviously it's going to be a slower and longer path, but if you're willing to, you actually can embody even more virtues, you know, because you learn a lot more doing that like hard path, right? Like the slower path. And that's why, again, if those that are stuck in the lower realms are trying to teach you something from like their vibration, you know, they can't really teach you anything, because that's falling into the false light. Okay, so just be aware of that. Basically, you are healing, right? So the astral is also our sacral chakra, the emotional planes. It can be an unconscious life or it can be conscious life. So every action is going to have a certain energetic imprint in the astral. Okay, so again, if we are trying to go in the path of the hero's journey of illumination, that means we are healing ourselves. We're healing the duality into oneness, right? From the duality, darkness, into love and light. Some texts, they say that the Kamaloka, we go through it 1/3 of the previous life we lived. So some text says that the sojourn, or the time spent in Kamaloka, will depend on 1/3 of the life that you had in like your earthly life, right? So it's like some math you can actually do. The Kamaloka, again, is a time of renunciation to those cravings and desires, right? You're regulating your passions for those things. It can be good or bad, again, like your vices. Like being too emotional is actually not that good in the astral. Like the astral, again, is like a mirror, so it's going to reflect everything back. Okay, makes sense. Like if you were really into, I don't know, like a sensation of, or not sensation, like food, you know, like gluttony, you really like eating stuff like that translates into the astral as you still having a desire for like tasty foods, you know. So that is still like an ego attachment. So that's kind of how I understood it. But again, from the Christianity perspective, hell will be that purgatory. So is your soul purified so it can leave all those desires, right, and actually go to heaven. So you're purified to a point where you're actually able to go to the next level, right? These are also called the Amenti halls. So once you pass away, you have like this period of time where your soul is going to purify itself again to go into higher realms. And in the higher realms, so like the middle astral, that's when you have like that choice, right? If you want to reincarnate, or like when you want to incarnate, depending on the guidance of your angels, whether you require more healing or just like more spiritual growth. Maybe you didn't understand something and now they're like teaching you, and now you have to like come back and like redo it now with an actual sense of what your soul's purpose is. So that's why when it comes to the dream world and the lower astral, this is when you get all your nightmares, like this horrible visions of demons and this like trickster energy, because that's the realm of the Luciferian, again, Edonism. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like, again, the seventh sense. So those souls that are actually like selfless and were like pure souls, you know, they have an easier time, like quick time, going through Kamaloka all the way to either the middle astral or the higher astral, because again, they don't have those attachments to the lower realms of existence, to those earthly desires, and so they're able to move on faster. And again, that's why their dreams are probably more like calm, and usually they are able to like move around whatever they're trying to do. And again, once you're able to understand the higher astrals, if you remember your dreams, you probably know like, oh, I can travel to a lot of worlds. Maybe they give you like missions, like go ahead and help this soul, you know. Understand that sometimes, you know, souls when they pass away from like in an accident, like they don't know that they already are dead, and like their soul needs some sort of like guidance, you know. And that's when, you know, like we have the advanced souls, the archangels, that come and like help them, guide them to the light, right, for them to like move on to higher realms. If not, they're like stuck here, and that's when we kind of see those entities here on earth that are like still trapped in time because they never actually left their past life. So they're still thinking that they're still living in that lifetime, but they're actually just lost souls that got stuck in the lower astral realms. Okay, so I made a different graph so we can get from like a different perspective the same thing I was just talking about, so the different divisions of the astral. So this is how it would look from, you could say, just space, right? So the earth is our physical plane, And then the astral is going to be that space between the earth and the moon. Okay, so the moon is actually that satellite that keeps the soul trapped. Okay, so why does it keep it trapped? Because it acts as a mirror again of those of our emotional body. So anything that we haven't healed, any karma, terrestrial karma that we still have going on, it's still gonna be reflected in the moon. So the moon, they call it actually like moon beings that will record your destiny or like your deeds, your experiences into the Akashic records. So the Akashic records are those that are left in the moon for kind of like you to have a life review. And so it's kind of like leaving that karmic package where if you decide to incarnate again, the moon will tell you like this is what you still need to heal. Okay, so as far as the astral, again, we know the lower astral will be the one closest to earth, and the higher astral will be closest to the moon. So what we will consider heaven will be the higher astral, but still is part of that that moon, like you can say circle, right? Like you're still not leaving that karma behind. And as far as Devachan, the lower and higher, so the lower is part of the moon, and the higher is when you're able to transcend the moon. So like your reflection, your karma. So here's the thing. Oh, and the closest again to earth is Kamaloka, right? So that will be hell. So that's where like the lower entities again can only go so far because their energy doesn't allow them to move and pass over to like higher energy, right? Like you do need to have a certain level of vibrational frequency of your soul for it to transcend to the higher realms, right? So those souls that are able to transcend Devachan, they can just go to different spheres, or like they will call it Sephiroth, I think, in the Kabbalah. Don't quote me on that. Do your own research. But as far as this, like the angels, the archangels will be those living in the higher Devachan, right? So you have to see it kind of like for some reason I think about a video game, like you have your angels right here and they have a mission, right, to help those that are in heaven that have still some karma to clear out, to be able to, when they reincarnate, that it's like an easier time, so that they know the lessons, right? Because again, the moon, it's that of a reflection, is your sacral chakra. So it's the water, it's the emotional, conscious or unconscious. And I do want to make a video of this talking about the nodes in astrology, how they can guide you on where you have karma, right? But I don't want to go into it in this video because it can be confusing for those that don't know much about astrology. But again, this is where you embody your archetype, okay? Where you try to embody as much as you can of the virtues in order for you to be able to transcend your own karma. And that's why we see the people, or like those that had like near-death experience, some of them had visions of the higher worlds. And again, because most souls go actually to like heaven, but those that have like a bad experience, a lot of times it can be because it's a reflection again of the moon, reflects back to you what you haven't healed in yourself. And a lot of times it can be like, you can say even like traumatizing to see what you did in this life, how you made others feel as well, right? Because that's part of the karma that you generate. It's kind of like a community, right? So if you see that, imagine like you can feel really bad about it, and you can become crazy. And that's why when they call the crazy people, they call them like lunatics, right? Because they're actually seeing the reflection of a lot of things that just obviously, you know, stuck in the lower astral. Those that have gone to, I think we all have been in the lower astral, like the visions you get can be really, really scary, like to the point where you believe you're that, or like it's so real, right? Because it does feel very real. It's one of your, whatever you experience in the astral, you also feel it in your like physical body. So imagine passing to the next life and not having a body to return to actually redeem certain things. Obviously the soul can like you know, like goes crazy, lunatic, okay? Or like that's why seeing your reflection can be too much, and you can become a lunatic trapped in the mirage of the moon. So they're trapped by the moon. Okay, so I think that's all I have for this video. I hope you guys liked it. I hope it was easy to understand and it answered some of your questions. But I might be making more videos about like the lower and higher astral, so maybe let me know some of the questions you guys might have. And other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on my next video. Okay, bye.